everyone, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 48 of the Unity Make an RPG series. Today we're going to go ahead and work on our turn-based combat system still. There's lots and lots of things we still need to do to make sure that this is a good base for all you guys to expand upon. So last time we worked on including or adding critical strike chance and damage to our turn-based combat machine, and more specifically our battle calculations script, where we say, hey, how do we determine whether or not we critically hit or not? And the way I did that was based on a chance that's in your the ability here that's in our actual base ability. I'll go ahead and open up that, and just again, this is just a quick review of what we did. But let's go ahead. So we added this two variables, this ability crit modifier and an ability crit chance, and these two values here are used to help determine whether or not we crit with that ability, and whether or not we and then how hard we crit with that ability. So the ability, now you don't have to do this, you could do it another way, but this is just an idea that you guys could hopefully expand upon. But again, this is it. Basically, you have a crit chance built into the ability. You'll also have your overpower stat that you can use, or luck stat, whatever stat you want to use, maybe to also add on or give you more of a chance at a critting. And then you have your crit modifier, which is just a base value that for that ability that will give you more damage. So in the example we used throughout writing the battle calculation script, we did, I think it was 1.2, which is 120% damage, and we add that in our crit calculation down here in our battle calculation script. So there's a couple things I wanted to do today in the video, and that's kind of set up a better looking GUI so that we can see the damage that we're doing, and then we can go ahead and jump into ending our turn and going to the enemy turn, and then doing some very simple AI, and then we'll go back into repeating our turn so that we actually can take multiple turns. And then that would be basically our turn-based combat system, and then we are going to jump into doing some inventory, because I know some of you guys probably really want that, and this is taking a while. But anyways, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these debug statements because we don't need them. We have our total player damage here. We don't need this function anymore. This calculates player, we don't need it. We can go ahead and get rid of it. Let's see. The other thing I really wanted to do was, instead of returning, our total player damage here, I like this, but what I want to do is, we have all these private variables. I want to store these return functions in these private variables, and then set our total player damage equal to all those private variables. And I'm doing that because I think it just looks, it's easier to read, I feel like. Maybe it's not, but that's what I'm going to do. So basically what I'm just saying is, like, we have this total used ability damage. Now we want to go ahead and use our total crit strike damage, which is, it's already being set in the function, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it here. So it would be total crit strike damage is going to be equal to our calculate critical strike damage function. And then we're going to go ahead and grab the, do we not have the status? Yeah, status effect damage. So we'll go ahead and do status effect damage is going to be equal to our calculate status effect damage. Like that. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this int cast here for calculating ability damage. I'm gonna put that in. It's already in front of ability damage. I guess that's all we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. We'll just change it actually. So what we're gonna do now is, instead of calling all those functions, we're just gonna say total ability used ability damage right here, plus, and we'll check plus our crit damage. So crit, and then plus our status effect. Right, so this is just when you come down here in a month later, after you've got this game running, you want to say, hey, what is all these abilities, and or what does this formula do? Well, now you can look. It does ability damage, critical strike damage, effect damage. It's a little easier to read, and that's why I was doing it. And if you remember last time, this is what we created to show 5% variance. You might think it's too much. We can go ahead and lower that to like 2.5%, or yeah, instead of 5%. And this is just to show a little bit more damage, because this is gonna 5% is huge with larger numbers. At smaller numbers, it's not that big. But anyways. So that's their new total player damage formula, which is just a little bit easier to read. This is the variance. You don't have to use this one if you don't want. I'm going to go ahead and keep it there for now because I like a little bit of variance. I lowered it from 5% to 2.5%, like that. So now, one thing we ran into last time, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure we don't have any errors, and we can actually go ahead and see the problem. When we're in player choice, and we go ahead and do a calculator, our damage, it's continually calculating it like that. You can see when we crit and when we don't crit, it's actually a pretty big difference. So what I want to do now is kind of go ahead, once we calculate this damage, we need to change back to enemy choice, right? We need to end our turn. So what we can do is we can right here we can say call this function, and then we can change states, or we can change states within the class. What we've been doing is changing states in these other functions. So like if we go to our battle state add status effect, you can see that we change turn-based combat state machine current state, and we actually do it ourselves. So I'm just going to go ahead. Right now I'm in the battle state add status effects class script. I'm going to go ahead and copy this turn-based combat state machine dot current state is equal to turn-based combat state machine dot battle states dot calculate damage. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to jump into our battle calculation script. And when we calculate total player damage, I'm going to go ahead and add the statement here where we're going to say, okay, now since this is player damage, we're going to go ahead and return state and go to enemy state, right? So enemy choice, excuse me. So we're going to call this function once, and we're going to return a value, and then we're going to be in our enemy's turn, and we should see it, I think, up in the console because we have those debug statements. So we're in player choice. I'm going to go ahead and do /, and now we're in enemy choice. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it. I want to go ahead and show you that we performed one move once, and it's right here. This is all we did. So this is a random value, I believe, for the status effect. Let me check. Yep. Random temp. That's for our status effect. Oh, I did not mean to do that. This is we return true, so we're applying the effect here. This is the effect this is the status effect base damage. So this is the damage that's in our actual status effect. Then we switch states to a calculate damage effect, right? And this is the damage we get from our status effect. Or excuse me, that is the intellect modifier that we use for our status effect. And then we had a crit, and so our total damage was 269. Okay, so that's all working how we want it to work. So that's good. I'm going to go ahead and we can go press play again. I think normal attack will fail. Okay, and that's because we don't have a status effect added onto it yet. But I'm going to go ahead and do / again. We can go ahead and see where we're at. And we had another crit, and we crit for 274. So it's like what was that? Like 8-point difference than last time. So it's pretty good. I like how that's all working out. It's working. So hopefully you can kind of see it all come together again. So now what we need to do is add a basically every time we flip, there's a couple things we can do. You can add a turn counter if you want individual turn counters. So if you want a player turn counter, or if you want an enemy turn counter, then you can have two, or you can have a total turn counter where the total turn is after you and the enemy go. That's what we're going to do for this combat state machine. So what I'm actually going to go ahead and do is after we complete our turn, we are going to go to, I think we're going to create another state, and it's just going to be an end turn state, right? And the end turn state is just where we're going to do some finalizations. So basically end turn is going to be our new state, okay? And we're going to have a public static variable. It's going to be an integer, and this is going to be our turn count, right? So we're going to call it turn count, and we'll actually call it total turn count. And total turn count at the start is going to be set equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. We're going to add it into our start function here. We're going to go and say, hey, let's set turn count equal to 0 at the start. And actually, we'll actually set it equal to 1. We want the first turn, right? So we'll set it equal to 1. And basically, after enemy choice here, we're going to create our AI code. We're going to create a script in just a second to start doing enemy choice. But at the end of it, we're going to say, hey, go to end turn, and then that's what we're going to actually do right now. So in Unity, we are going to go ahead and add another state in our turn-based combat folder. And we're going to create a C# script class, and we're going to call it battle state end turn is the one that we're going to add. And then we're going to add another one, and it's going to be C#, and it's going to be battle state enemy choice, right? I'm going to go ahead and open up the intern and enemy choice scripts in MonoDevelop so we can go ahead and start working on them. So basically, I'm in the battle state enemy choice right now, and this is where we have our enemy that's created already, right? And it's created in our battle state start script. And so what we want to do is use that enemy and kind of decide how that enemy is going to perform, right? And it's AI, and this is where you guys are probably going to spend a lot of time getting as complex, or not as complex as you want or need for the difficulty for your game. I'm not, I don't know. I've programmed some very, very, very basic AI, so I can't go super in depth in creating some really dynamic AI. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of learning, a lot of reading, and I can just show you some basic ideas, and then we can move on from there. That's basically all what I wanted to say with that. But what we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and exit out some of this stuff. But again, in our turn-based, I'm moving this tab over. In our turn-based combat state machine, after we do enemy choice, we want to go ahead and do our end turn case. And actually, I need to go ahead and add it into our state machine down here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to change battle state to end turn. So basically what we want to do is, again, after the player, if the player goes second, we want to have basically, in this case, in this one case right now we're working at, is after the player goes and enemy goes, we want to jump into our end turn state. And so actually what we should do is create, really, because the player might not go first every time, right? In the case that we're working on right now, the player's going first every time, but really that's not true. So at all times. So what we could do is actually create a let's go ahead and create 2 public static bools. So we're gonna go ahead and do a public. And sorry, I'm jumping around. I just thought of this as we're working on it, because I'll pre-record all this stuff. But we're gonna make a public static bool that we're gonna be able to edit in these scripts. And what it is, it's gonna be or player. I'm gonna say player did complete turn, and then we're gonna go public static bool enemy did complete turn. So we're just gonna run a check, right? So we're gonna say, hey, when these are true, when these are both true, then we'll go ahead and run in turn, and in turn will do whatever any extra calculations, whatever we need to do. So we're gonna go ahead and call in our battle state player choice, which is in, I guess this is in battle calculations. We're going to go ahead and say players completed a turn. So here, where we're switching actually to enemy choice, we're going to go ahead and say, no, we want to well, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and access turn-based combat state machine dot did player, right, or player did complete turn, and we're going to set that equal to true. So what this does is saying, okay, our player completed a turn in our current. The reason why we're switching, it's okay to switch states here to our enemy choices because we're doing separate player damage. But I've mentioned before, if you guys wanted to use the same formulas to calculate player damage in enemy damage, then you're going to have the same function here. So you're going to need to have a different way of getting to your enemy choice state. And so what you could do is have a little helper function here, or using bools, you could create a helper func method that just says, hey, if the enemy completed the turn or if the player completed the turn and the enemy hasn't, then it's the enemy's turn. You know, just simple logic like that. And that's the way you can use with this true statement here. But since I said I'm going to use different ones, I can go ahead and use this statement. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys both. So basically, we created that bool. Now in our turn-based combat state machine, we can create a helper function that says, you know, check to see whose turn it is next. And we'll go ahead and do that down here below all that. We're going to create a private void method, and it's going to be check to see who's check. I don't know. Let's say check who goes next. Right, and then what we'll do is say if enemy. No, we'll say if player. Basically, there'll be one or the other. It's going to be either the player's true and then the enemy's not, or the enemy's not and the player's true. I guess, and then the end case will be if they're both true, then we'll go ahead and go to in turn state, right? So we're going to go ahead and say if player, if player did complete turn is true, and then we'll say and enemy did complete true is false. So we do exclamation point in front of it. Right, so shift 1. Then we know it's the enemy's turn. And what you could do, and then we'll create another if statement. We'll say if player did complete is false, and oh my goodness, and enemy did. I didn't find it. That's weird. So let me hit enter a few times to kind of bring this up to the center of the screen. It's easier to read. So what we're doing here is we're saying if our player, so if this is false, if player did complete turn is false, and our enemy did complete turn is true, that means it's the player's turn. And then we'll go ahead and do one catch-all, which is basically if this is all false, or I mean if they're both true, then we know it's either it's the end turn state. So we'll say player's turn here, and then we'll say end turn state. Oh, I meant to comment that. End turn state. So now what we can do is just at the end of this, before we break out of our calculating damage here, we can call this function, right? So we can say change states. This is where a change of state will come. So we're going to go ahead and say our current state here is going to be equal to our battle states dot, since it'd be enemy choice here, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy this statement, and we're going to just copy and paste it under player's turn. So instead of it'd be player's choice, and then here it will be the same, but it will be end turn. So this is like a probably more better. This could actually be cases. Well, anyways, you could just do basically this is just checking, saying if this is true, then we're gonna go ahead and switch to enemy. You know, if our player's turn is not complete, but our enemy did, then it's our player's choice. And if they're both true, then we're gonna go ahead and go to our end turn state, which is where we're gonna increase our count. So now what you're probably asking, you know, where do we use this function? Well, you can go ahead and copy the check who goes next method name, and we're going to go ahead and paste it under calculate damage before we break. So I'm actually going to go into our battle calculations method or class and go ahead and comment out where I manually set the state. I'm going to go ahead and into Unity. Hopefully we don't have any errors. And when I hit, it should switch. So when I hit / it's going to calculate damage, and it should switch by itself, and it did. And we can go ahead and check, make sure that we only calculate damage once, and you can see we did, and we actually didn't crit. So that's pretty cool. It's just cool to see that we actually didn't crit. But our new state works. So that brings me to the next thing before we jump into the enemy AI, start doing the enemy AI stuff in the video is, what do we do in our intern state? Well, in our intern state, we want to go ahead and increase our counter. So here in the intern, I'm going to go ahead and say total turn count is going to be plus equals to 1, right? So that's going to add 1 to our turn count, and then we're going to go ahead and set our player turn. Our player did complete turn is equal to false, and we're going to go enemy did complete turn is equal to false. So when we actually get to this point, we'll go ahead and end our turn, and we can go ahead and check all this right now. We'll do a real quick check. I'm going to go ahead and copy this goes who's next method name again. And in our enemy choice here, we're going to go ahead and call that function. But what we need to do first is go ahead and set our enemy did complete to true. Right. So what this is going to do is, as soon as we make our choice, it's going to check. Then it's going to go into player choice, and then enemy choice, and then we're just immediately say our enemy did complete the turn, and then we're going to say, all right, well then we'll go who goes next. It should go to our end state, and then we'll go ahead and debug a statement here. We'll go debug .log total, and then we'll look for our total turn count, like that. Okay. All right. In Unity, go ahead and press play. Here we're in player choice / and you can see we're at intern, and it's because it's stuck. Right. It's just staying here. We're not changing states. So it got up to intern. It showed us. I'll show you right where it does it. Let's see. Intern, it went up to 2, and then it just, like I said, it just stayed there because we're just sitting here because we're not actually changing states. Basically, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to go see who went first, and then go back to that choice, and that could be based on luck again. It doesn't have to be. It can be, if you could do this if. This could be an interesting mechanic here. If you have an ability that modifies your luck, which, if you remember, in this case, luck is our luck stat determines who goes first. So let's say the enemy has a ability, a buff, or a potion that says, hey, I'm going to use this to increase my luck. Well, in their next turn, that could allow them to go first. So, that's something to think about. But now we're going to jump into doing some enemy AI stuff. So I'm going to actually go ahead and comment out this enemy did complete turn. So we're going to sit in our enemy choice here. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. So we're in enemy. We're going to be going to enemy choice, and we need to go ahead and figure out what to do. So what we're going to do now is create a private instance of the new script we made, which is a battle state enemy choice script. Battle state enemy choice. We're going to call it battle state enemy choice script, like so, and then we'll set it equal to a new instance of it. So now I'm in it. I'm in the new class. It's inheriting model behavior for now. We don't need to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and exit out of it. And just so I don't leave this without talking about it, I created this battle state intern class here just in case we need it. We probably don't need it, but for now I'm going to keep it just in case there's a lot of things we want to do in it. We could do that. So basically, in that we can keep it really clean in here in this code, and we can say in our state machine, and we can do our check for to see who goes next again. We can run our who goes first check again if we want. But anyways, in our statement, battle state enemy choice here, there's a couple things that you want to do. I suggest just creating a very, very generic, simple function here, simple method that's public. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll say public void, and what we'll call it, we'll say perform, or enemy perform ability and we'll say enemy complete turn. Okay, complete turn. So what in this function, this is the function you're going to call from your battle state in turn. So in our combat state machine here, in our enemy choice, we are going to go ahead and say battle state enemy, if I can find it, there it is, enemy choice script dot enemy complete turn. Okay, so this is the function we're going to call. And enemy complete turn is going to say, this is where you're going to decide what needs to happen. And what you could do is say, complete turn is going to need what? Well, it's going to need to choose an ability, or look at abilities. Well, it's going to say, choose an ability. You calculate damage, and then end turn, right? So this is basically what we need to do is create the AI for choosing an ability. And I recommend creating a separate script for this. And I'd say that because it could be the code that you write could be extremely long for your AI. So really what I would do is create, if you have complex AI, you don't want to have basically the state enemy choice thing is just like another stepping stone. Excuse me. Sounds like I'm getting sick. But anyways, this battle state enemy choice, you just want to keep this generic. The bulk of your AI code is going to probably be in a separate script. I'm going to just write it below here for now, because we're going to keep it super. Since I don't have many abilities, I only have 2. I can keep my AI script down pretty simple. But what you want to do, again, because I'm assuming most of you guys are going to have a lot more abilities and stuff than just what I'm doing, is you're going to want to definitely create another script. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do it, and so to show you guys how that's all set up. So basically, I'm going to go ahead and create another folder. We have all kinds of abilities and stuff here. So I'm going to close up some of these folders, actually. Here we go. I'm going to create a new folder in scripts, and I'm going to call it enemy. And then in enemy, we're going to go ahead and create enemy ability choice, I guess is what we'll call it. So this is a first AI component, okay? And AI, again, can be as complex and as simple as you want it to be. This is up to you. This is your design, right? So I'm going ahead and get rid of model behavior and stuff because we don't need that. But basically, this is where what we want to do is create a public function. We're going to return a base ability, and we're going to call this method called enemy choose choose enemy. I don't know, enemy choose. I like choose enemy ability. Enemy sounds better. Ability. Okay. So basically, this is where your AI is going to get, and this is where you want to kind of look at the difficulty of your game. So, a few ways I guess you could handle this is, you can, if you randomly generate the abilities that your enemy has, which is the way I'm going to handle it. Right now, let's go in our battle state start. We actually don't give our enemy. I think it's here. Where's our create enemy? Here we go. So when we create our new enemy, we're actually not giving it any abilities yet, and we only have 2. I only have 2. Excuse me. So what we're going to probably want to do is, or what we will do here in a little bit is we're actually going to assign the enemy a couple abilities. There's a few ways to do this. You can create a giant list of available enemy abilities. Since we're assigning our enemy a class, we can say, okay, well, because this enemy type is a mage, then this enemy type will receive this list of abilities, and in the list of abilities will be all the mage abilities, right? Or if it's a warrior, it's going to get all the all the warrior abilities. And from there, you can go ahead and say, well, since the enemy has these warrior abilities, we can go ahead and look at our ability choice. And you could just literally randomly pick an ability to use, and then if the ability can't, you can set up that way. And that is the super generic way and the simplest way, but it doesn't create the most fun gameplay. So what you would probably want to do is start adding some cases and actually have the enemy look at the situation. And this is where it gets more and more complicated. So from there you can say, well, you could look at the player's health and create some formula that basically says, if the player is above 90% health, then we want to choose a more powerful ability. And then you could say, you could look at and compare stats, and then weight. So you could say, well, let's think of one, like if the player, say it's the enemy's turn, and the enemy first says, okay, let's compare my stats versus the player's stats. Okay, so let's say, all right, well, I see here the player is stronger, and or has more strength than I do. So then the enemy could say, well, should I increase my strength or should I just do this ability? And then you can kind of choose. Then you can leave it up to the computer to make that choice. You can say, well, maybe I should increase my strength, kind of look ahead a couple turns, or you can. I'm trying to think. Let's see. You could do. I think health would probably be a good stepping stone. So you could say, like, for choices. So if the ability, or if the enemy says, okay, these are the abilities I can use. If the enemy or the player, is above 75% health, then these are the abilities I can use. If the enemy is above 50% but below 75%, then these are the abilities I can use. And then if the enemy is below 50%, then these are what I'll use. So I think that would be the simplest way to get up an AI. So it's making some decisions, but it's not really complex. Again, I've never really written any super complex AI, so I apologize if that's what you're gonna be looking for, because I can't provide that at the time, or at this time, maybe in the future. But so what we're gonna do for now, for this tutorial for now, we're actually gonna go ahead and I want to create super simple AI. But just randomly choosing a ability is extremely simple. So we're going to go ahead and make a switch case here, okay? And this switch is going to look at player health, and it's just going to go. I think it's in game information. No, what's called game information dot player health, right? So we have that, and then we're going to create a couple cases. And then from here we can further decide what we want to do. But so the first thing we're gonna look at our player health. Our enemy's gonna look at the health. We're gonna say, okay, is our player health greater than what? Well, right now we're gonna say we want to look at a percentage. So really, what we want to do is get this player health and do a little bit of math. It's more fun math. So we're going to create a couple private variables. We're going to go private int total player health. And then we want to go private, I guess it'll be a float, and it's going to be health percent, player health percentage. And since this is what we're calling, we're going to go ahead and do the math here. So what we want to do is go total player health is going to be equal to our game information. Let's say total current health total player health, and it's going to be equal to player health. And actually, there's a more simple way. Basically, the issue now that I'm thinking about this is that this is going to change every single time the player, during all the turns, right? So this is going to be called every time the player makes a turn. Well, this is going to change. So what we probably want to do is using our stat calculations, we can actually get our player's total health whenever we want. We can just call for it, right? So calculate health here. Let me go in the battle state start, and if you remember determine player vitals here, we actually determine our health. We say stat calculate, and then we send it stamina. So what we could do is literally just do this again. We could do this, run this at the start, get the information, because this is going to change. Our health is going to lessen based on or throughout the battle. So our total health, our current player health, is going to change, but it's always, we can always get back to the main stat. But for now, I guess since we're for now we'll go ahead and keep it. For now we'll go ahead and do this. So what we're going to do is look at a percentage, okay? So our case isn't going to be our player health. It's going to be a percentage of our health. So if our total player health is equal to this, then our player health percentage is going to be equal to our total health. What is it? Total player health it's divided by is it 100? So that's wrong. Well, that would give us So that would give us what everything. That's part of it. So total player health divided by 100 will give us a percentage times 100, right? So this will give us our total player health. But if it's so if our player health is 100, it's going to give us 1 times 100, which is 100%, right? So if this ends up being 50 divided by 100, there we go. So now we're going to actually look at this percentage. So we're going to say player health percentage is our switch case, and then our case is going to be the different percentages that we want. So we can go ahead and say if it's 75, these are going to be specific, right? So 75. I don't know if you can do greater than, right? So if player health percentage, let's look. Can you do greater than, like greater than or equal to in the cases? Oh, you see, you can't do floats. Oh, that's gonna be an issue, isn't it? Go ahead and create an int here. I'm gonna cast this. In C# you can't do floats as a case. I don't know if you know that, but now you know. I already tried doing it a while ago and it didn't work. So now we can say if player health percentage is greater than or equal to 75 is one case. And then we'll go ahead and break out of it. Now let me make sure this works before I leave you for the video. This might not work. And it does. A constant value is expected. So you actually can't, for cases you can't do a range like that. You might be able to. There might be a way to do it. I don't know how right now. I'll look into that. But so I guess we'll just do if statement for now. So we'll say if player health percentage. Well, then there's really no point in doing all that calculation. But anyways, if player health percentage is greater than or equal to 75, then we're going to go ahead and say do this, right? And then we'll say else if. And I'm going to create these if statements for now, and then we're going to end the video because it's getting close to 40 minutes. So we'll say if player health percentage is less than 75 and player health percentage, I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, is greater than or equal to 50. So basically if we're between these two values, then we're going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and shift tab that over like that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this else if statement again and just paste it. And then 50 is going to go here. Actually, we're just going to say for less than 50. So right now we have these three states. If our health, we look at our health, we calculate a percentage, and then we're going to say if we're greater than 75, if we're between 75 and 50, and then if we're, actually I'm going to make this 25, gives us 50% to deal with. And then 25. So these are like 3 spots we can look at. This is the first. This is like this stepping stones of our AI. If you guys have some ideas for AI, write them down in the comments below, because I really don't know what we should do. Again, I've never really written complex AI, and we're not going to do that in the next couple videos, because I want to move on and do some other stuff that are included in RPGs. So we'll get a basic one up and running, and then we can move on, and then we can come back and look at it more in the future. But anyways, please like, subscribe, comment. Appreciate all the feedback, all the views. It's great. It's wonderful. You guys are awesome. So tell me what you think of the turn-based combat system so far, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.